exactly my question. So 2017, you said discounting tech in favor of other elements is being short-sighted. It is biased towards tradition, which is an interesting way to put it, and it is risk aversion and resistance to change at its best. Tell me more about that, especially the tradition part. That's interesting.
Well, I mean, I don't know if we can still, that's still applicable in 2019, if we can still have that type of conversation. I mean, I'm kind of, I took the leap, and, you know, in the latest report we did about, you know, elevating your job from event planner to event strategist, really one of the items, like one of the major forces driving this change in terms of the evolution of the job that event planners have and how they're required to be more strategists today. One of those reasons why this is demanded out of them is because there's a generational gap. There's a generational divide right now in the industry, which is by no means based on age, but more mentality. And the mentality is, I'm gonna embrace whatever it's new. I'm gonna embrace tech as one of the items, like I look at the venue, I look at the F&B, whatever it is, you know, look at tech as an element for it. And some people are like, oh no, we're in the face-to-face industry and everything should be analog. But that doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because most of the tech that makes sense for events is actually in the back end. It's not even attendee facing. So you're making an argument that has no value whatsoever. You're just being inefficient. So I'm not even talking anymore to that type of audience, because I think they're going to be out of the industry sometimes. So they're going to do something else probably. They're going to just go and hold and embrace people and hug them and feel good with themselves. But, you know, this is not what the face-to-face industry is about. And, you know, the event industry is about efficiency. It's about being extremely attentive to details. It's about, you know, creating a flawless experience on the operational aspect first, and then on the engagement, the connection, all the great things we like to talk about. But the operational efficiency, how are you going to achieve that in 2020 without a software? Please do explain it to me, because I'm speechless. I don't know how, you know, I'm still convincing you that we need a mobile app for an event, because it should be more.
I see those conversations. They're still happening. And I agree. I agree that, I think I said this around that same time, that there's just that meteor is going to destroy those dinosaurs, and those dinosaurs can yell at that meteor as much as they want, but it's coming. So, you know, and I guess that's probably not an apt comparison, because the meteor, well, I mean, it did bring us eventually, but it sounds like a negative thing. Ultimately, I think that some of the pain points come from the fact that they have refined, to be like devil's advocate, you know, because I try to have empathy with the people that I'm trying to understand. Because I've talked to the same people, you know, I think that you're referencing as well. I think that they've highly developed their gut to be able to be really pretty powerful. The problem is that it's still a gut, which is weak sauce. You know, like, it's not verifiable. It's something that impresses a CMO. You know, like, your gut says what? You know, person who ostracize themselves from the marketing and put themselves in this little camp called events, and don't see that where they actually go together. But I think the pain comes from the fact that they have built a trade around almost like mysticism and shaman-like talents, which I believe are actually probably, their hypotheses are probably awesome. But that's as far as it goes, right? They never get better, and they can never prove it. And I think that's where the technology comes in.
Such a shame, because, you know, if you would put that sort of instinct with,
Totally,
you know, data, and you combine the two, you're
crush
set for amazing success. And it's such
Yeah.
a shame to see, you know, so many opportunities missed out, or so many savings opportunity, even on a, you know, vendor sourcing or stuff like that. You know, I'm just going to give you this tidbit of information. So, for as part of a report, an analysis that we're doing this month, we're releasing about the state of venues and how they are. So I was speaking to a planner, and she told me that she had to call a hotel 3 times in a month in Vegas, because a group she was bringing there, essentially they were giving her a group rate that was consistently higher for 3 times in a row than available rates on booking.com. It was very interesting to me. So I decided to go and have a look. I took a sample of 50 events, worldwide, US based mostly, but also Europe and Asia Pacific. And consistently, I saw the rates published for groups on event websites being higher than whatever was available on booking.com. This is like one of the largest scams I will ever see in our industry. Like the level of depthness of some hotel chains is beyond ridiculous. And you have to think that, you know, with these group rates that they get, you have minimums, you have, you know, fallback clauses and all of that. Your hand, like if you don't get them like 80%, you're screwed. You have to pay for it. And, you know, at the other end of the spectrum, there's substantial savings. We're not even speaking about similar properties close by that are half of the price, similar level, or Airbnb. But what I'm trying to say here is that, first of all, like a technology-enabled planner would know that from the get-go because they're searching. Obviously, the planner I was talking to, she was very out there with tech, and she looks at all these websites. She knows what's going on. And she was able to call them up and say, what are you doing with me? Like, why are you giving my attendees a higher rate than what they can get on booking.com? And the other part is, while I was doing this research that brings me back, I would say that 49 out of 50 of the websites I've seen, they seem they come out of 1997. I mean, that's not acceptable. Like that was my personal upsetting part. And that's not the part of the research that I do, but I want to share it with someone because it's so hurting to see that type of web design. We talk about creating experiences and all of that, and you land people on a 1995 looking website. I mean,
Right.
how do you reconcile that with your desire to plan experiences if tech is not part of that experience from the get-go? I mean, that's the first impact in most cases we're going to have with you.
It's so funny, like you see how much time that they spend in their design of their like booths, and yet they realize that their website is their booth 365 days out of the year. The people that they'll never meet, right? Like, and the pain to see, you know, the sales process analyzed and, you know, the right people in the bus, you know, for the booth, and yet, you know, there's not live chat, there's not, you know, an intuitive UX. Like, it's simply just, well, and I deal with a lot of associations. You know, that's it's worse there. You know, like the archaic designs.
This is not by no means bashing here because, you know, event
No,
professionals
they have a
don't
lot on their
do
plate.
bashing. You know, they're already so, you have so much going on. I mean, it's just like, I do feel you. I do understand you. I'm not like coming here and say, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. This is more of, you know, again, our job is evolving, and our job today involves also taking care of, you know, the technology side of things, whatever tech impacts on the experience side of things. You would, you know, when I was presenting trends in 2000 and whatever 12, I used to have a slide where I was like, would you have your attendees go to a bathroom that looks like that? And it was like a trash bathroom. Or would you serve rotten food or gone food to your attendees? So why do you put them in a situation to experience something like that, especially where web today is like so pervasive and we're so full of all the Amazon experiences? You know, I order something on the internet, the next day is on my doorstep. Like, how do you compare with that? So that's what we should be thinking about. Even thinking about it makes a huge difference, because the next time someone is selling you a crap software for $50,000, you're like, wait a second, I can get the same thing for like half of the price because I did my research. I have it as one of the things I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I think having like a really regimented phases of an event that starts at the first piece of content that you know, attracts someone, all the way through to the extending proposition. If you look at things like that and you have the same level of conversation of each phase, you give things the weight they deserve, because you really respect the user / attendee journey. You know, otherwise what you're doing is you're segmenting it and saying marketing is this and the event is this, or, you know, post event is this, and it's one thing, right? And I think that that's part of the problem, is these silos that are not taking into consideration, you know, the life of your attendees.
And Megan, as a marketing expert, I mean, I would go back to what you said at the beginning to a certain extent. You know, I started my innovation lab with one stat that we look at, you know, looking at all the stats over the past 2 years, where consistently, every piece of research on the event industry is saying that between 40 and 77% of event marketers, CMOs, are investing in events as one of their main marketing activity. Their actual main, most effective marketing activity. They're willing to invest more. The next slide is, let's not fuck this up, because honestly, that's one of the biggest opportunity ever. I'm sorry for cursing. You can
Yeah, it's okay.
but truly,
making sure the editors get paid.
Nah,
this is what we've been asking for, right? Think about 2008 and how desperate, so many events being cut during the crisis because it was a waste of money. So all of a sudden you have this money coming in. The problem is that CMOs don't think like, whatever, a CEO asks you to do an incentive trip and how was the event? Oh, it was great. High five.
That's it.
Loved it. Let's hug each other. Let's move on. CMOs want accountability. They want accountability. So how are you going to present that? Because the problem is, as soon as the money comes, the money goes if it's not well spent, if it's not well accounted for.
It's symptomatic that we're living in this age of acquisition around that same time, because now that there is the ability to adopt technologies to have some sort of verifiable results. Prior to that, like I said, everyone's known that an event breeds more positive brand equity, pipeline growth, everything that you'd want to hear than a piece of advertisement in a print magazine. Not that that there's no place for that, but it breeds a stronger connection. The problem is the magazine said we had so many magazines and people read them, and events had a binary. Again, those plateaued shaman would be like, it was a good event, this binary, good, bad, meaningless chatter, as opposed to, well, we increased, the outcomes were put into our CRM, number one, so look and see the results yourself. They didn't understand the stakeholders and understand that different stakeholders have different results. They just didn't strategize around that. They just said it was good, and it was put in this kind of like bucket of money that we know it's good, and when we're doing good and the event is good, then we'll keep doing them, as opposed to any other piece of marketing. And I think digital pushed events to this point, because of just not only does the technology exist to audit these experiences that didn't exist before, but when I put money into Facebook, I know what I'm getting, and I want that from everything. Right. And if you can't give me that, even if I know in my heart it's better, I just can't accept it, because I'm spending other people's money.
Correct.